Nope.
Okay, Ray, can you lead us in the pledge? Okay,
I
there's
pledge
the
allegiance to the flag
flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
republic
which is
for which
stands
stands one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty.
and justice
and justice for all.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda, please?
So moved.
second.
Ray and Brian. Judy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Ayla,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya, Flo,
Sorry, I was trying to get my mute. Yes.
Ray, and Linda.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so administrative reports, Mr. Lenz.
Did you want to start with a student report, or do you want me to just move into it? I know that's the
Oh,
agenda.
no, we can have Travis. Travis, go ahead first.
Okay. I had with the that I'm part of the grad committee. I wanted to give thanks to the wonderful administration we have for their distance, how they created the distance learning and that kind of stuff. And that I just feel for all the kids and especially the seniors, and I hope everyone is well. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Travis.
You're welcome.
Travis,
Okay.
can you tell us a little bit about using Google Classroom, Google Meets, you connecting with your teachers?
That is Google Meet is that's good. I meet with one of my teachers on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock, and that goes pretty well because I get like input from the teacher, like if I have questions or concerns about like assignments or work or that kinds of things. Google Classroom, it works well for me because I can know how to submit my assignments and that kind of stuff, and I just do well with it.
Excellent. You're working hard, right, Travis?
Yes, and
Excellent.
I hope other kids in the district are doing well as well.
That's very kind of you.
Okay, so now Mr. Lenz, you're up.
All right. Great to see you, Travis. You can duck off if you want at this point, okay?
Okay.
All right.
See you
Take care of
later.
yourself, Travis. We'll talk soon.
Yep. Take
All
care.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So I really just wanted to take a moment to just recognize all the staff. You know, I've said this previously, but I really just can't reiterate enough, you know, during these times, how much because of each of them and, you know, just the various modes of each of the things going on, but because of their dedication and their focus throughout this entire thing, as a learning community, we've been able to really move forward with technology resources, providing meals, and really just keeping our staff safe because of the Buildings and Grounds team continuing to keep the buildings sanitized and clean each day. And then just really moving forward with a little bit of direction that we were able to get this Friday because the governor released an executive order that does lay out the budget process as far as a timeline. It is a super condensed schedule for this year. It will require all voters to vote by absentee. So for Port Jervis, this will require that we send out about 10,000 ballots this year. And they will be due back to us on June 9th, because that is what is being classified as budget vote day. And so those will be due back to us by 5 p.m. and this will all happen through the mail. So I will just kind of go through the timeline so everybody understands what that's going to look like this year. On May 11th will be the deadline for petitions or nominations as far as the Board of Education candidates. Actually, that same day will be the deadline for the first expenditure statement, at which time we will also have to post the legal notice only 2 times this year instead of 4, but that's the first one's going to go out on May 12th and then May 26th. We will be required to have a final draft of the budget. Ultimately, that has to be adopted by May 22nd. We're proposing to adopt that on May 20th. That aligns with the board meeting we already had scheduled, at which time I have to submit the school property tax report card to the state on the 21st, because that's due a day after that board meeting. And then we will have to have our public budget hearing. And if we follow that May 20th timeline, then that will be required to happen May 27th through June 2nd. And the second candidate expenditure statement will be due on June 4th. And then June 9th, we will, of course, have our election. But again, that's by absentee. So we will be mailing those all out immediately preceding the approval of the budget by the board. And then those, again, are due back to us by 5 p.m. that day. And then we'll, of course, have to have a canvass of the vote, to adopt those results. So, the other difference this year is that those will all have to be hand counted, because they're going to be done by absentee, not using the machines. So there is a group of people that are going to have to be involved into that counting, depending on how many, of course, we get back. So that certainly will look a little different. And then the last candidate expenditure statement will be due to us on June 29th, of course, following the budget process. So that's the timeline for the budget. Again, it's super short in comparison to what we normally would do. The state still has not really released any information as far as school aid beyond what they originally released, because if you remember, April 30th was the end of the first look back period. So that's where the state is reviewing its expenditures against its revenues. And if there's more than a 1% difference between the two, they can reevaluate the aid that's going to school districts, to healthcare, so on and so forth, all of the things that the state pays, and reduce ultimately what they're sending us to aid based on a gap that they have. Now, they still do talk about a potential gap of about $13 billion, and they're still calling for the federal government to help fund that. So the other thing that the governor keeps speaking about is that if that is not funded, that's going to create, probably about a 20% reduction as far as state aid, which would certainly be just catastrophic across all schools really in the state. So it's really significant, of course, but at the same time, without guidance and without information, it's really hard to speculate on that information. But I still think it's just prudent to make mention of that. And so certainly just hope for the best. We will have to plan out a couple workshops that I know Mike will be talking about. And, just as a reminder, the budget adoption will be May 20th with a board vote or ultimately a public vote on June 9th, but by absentee. So, it's interesting to call it a public vote when nobody's going to be coming out to vote. And that's what I have this evening.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, next up, Mr. Pantaleone.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I'd just like to recognize that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. And I just want to thank all of our teachers for the support of our students, hard work, and compassion during this time. You are truly appreciated. And to follow up with that, last Friday, May 1st, was National Principal Appreciation Day. So I'd just like to reach out to our building principals personally and thank all of them for their hard work, creativity, and compassion as well during these times. And just to touch upon a few topics, our technology department, along with Ms. Sullivan, Patty Hess, and myself and Mr. Lenz have been working on student registration. So next week, we'll be opening up our online student and kindergarten registration, and we will utilize the platform Family ID, which is currently being utilized by our athletic program. Information will be communicated on our district website, along with tutorial videos for parents to access. And again, just thank you for the team effort, and we're really excited to get that launched next week, and more information will follow. Also currently working on a plan to create opportunities to provide our students to get content from their respective lockers, or app named Locker Cleanout. Once the plan is finalized, our families will be in contact with the details. Again, this will follow social distancing guidelines. Also, just some further information from state ed. I recently spoke about in a few board reports ago, graduation measures. The regional meetings, of course, have been canceled, but in lieu of those meetings, and basically to look at what are seniors, the skills they need to graduate, and what do they need to know before they graduate. There's been regional meetings. There's a survey that I'm going to share with the board later this evening, but also post on our website. And that is for all stakeholders, from teachers, parents, administrators, board members, and community leaders to fill out. So that'll give us some good feedback so we can share with the state. And on a personal note, over the weekend, I received a thank you card from a student. So I just want to thank Mitchell Conklin and his family for the kind words, and to let you know that we're all here for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Pantaleon. Okay, next up, Mr. Rydell.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. As we are all aware, schools are closed for the remainder of the school year. And we, like Nick was saying, we are continuing to develop plans for student recognition ceremonies, inclusive of graduation ceremonies. And like all aspects of this closing of schools, as abnormal as it is and irregular, we are developing multiple plans that are contingent on what future orders may include as restrictions. So if there's some relaxing of the restrictions, then we have plans for that. If there's social distancing parameters in the future, we have plans for that. And we're developing plans for ceremonies and events that do not require physical presence at all, using virtual or technology to make it possible. Certainly far from ideal, but we are working very hard on multiple plans for every one of these student recognition ceremonies. And each of the buildings are putting together committees to finalize these plans and discuss all ideas and options, and basically just getting as many ideas and options from our parents, our students, et cetera, to come up with the best plans. Regarding the most recent executive order, there was clear language that Mr. Lenz was explaining regarding the budget and Board of Education trustee voting processes. We have posted the executive order on our website, which details these requirements and the protocols. And we are finalizing our plans for the process that we will follow for this very unique means of voting. The mailings of the important information for our community, which is standard, but the ballots, the return envelopes for voters to return their ballot, which is, like Mr. Lenz was saying, due and to be in our possession by 5 p.m. on June 9th. At this point, I believe we have a bulk of that plan in place for this process and for the assembly of all the necessary materials. And again, like Mr. Lenz was saying, there are many unknowns and variables in the budget development process. We do not have the essential information yet, but there will be a tremendously quick turnaround for us as a learning community and as a Board of Education on the first round of numbers, and when we have to put our proposed budget out there for the board to approve. I stress this because the range of funding for schools is beyond description. We can see in the news and press conferences stating a 20% reduction in funding for schools, which would have obviously extremely far-reaching effects on all school districts. This is not a Port Jervis concern. This is an every school district concern. We've looked at every line item in detail, every program, every item possible. And regardless of the outcome of the first round of funding information, we believe that we have plans in place for the board to consider, regardless of the direction that things go. We are proceeding with caution on these plans, as the funding could change throughout the school year based on the look back periods that we've spoken about. And so this is a unique scenario. And with that, we want to schedule budget workshops in the coming weeks as information does become available to us. And so the first budget workshop we would like is for next Tuesday evening. We can discuss that as a board for everyone's availability. At that meeting, we'll have different scenarios and can have, a pretty extensive discussion on the possible outcomes. And again, we won't have the numbers until May 15th, but this workshop will include significant decisions that will be necessary programmatically, et cetera. We'll have another budget workshop proposed for around Monday, March 18th. And our board meeting will remain as scheduled on, I'm sorry if I said March, I meant May 18th. And our board meeting will remain on May 20th for the adoption of the budget. So this will give us multiple opportunities to discuss very, very important information. And then we'll also look to schedule a budget hearing. And this will need to happen between May 27th and June 2nd. So if the board could, at some point this evening, check their calendars and we can finalize these dates for the budget workshops, most importantly, that would be appreciated. And finally, as I explained in last week's phone message, and it's also posted on our website, our food service staff is doing an incredible job with the meal distribution. They've expanded it to 7 days a week worth of meals with hot lunches included in the menu. And I really just want to take this opportunity to commend this group of great individuals for all that they're doing. And I also mentioned this distribution as we have recently received a fairly large quantity of masks from Orange County. And we will also expect to receive some materials and small care packages from the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Orange County, ADAC. Their teams are in our schools throughout the year and do a tremendous amount for our students. They're putting these other materials together. And so we'll distribute the masks and the packages with our meals. I expect that we'll distribute the masks to our families this Friday. And we should have all the materials from ADAC to distribute them during our meal distributions on Monday. And I'll close with, as Mr. Pantaleone said, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And I want to publicly thank our teachers for all they are doing. Just an amazing job. And the evidence of their passion for teaching and commitment for our students, it's clear. And it doesn't take a designated week for us to appreciate our teachers, but it does provide the appropriate backdrop to express our appreciation. So to the teachers, thank you. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Rydell. Okay, next on the agenda. The next item is the consent agenda. This category includes the following items: meetings of the April 23rd, 2020 meeting, CSE minutes from 3:20, 3:25, 4:1, 4:6, 4:15, 4:17, 4:20, 4:21, 22, 23, and 24, and CSE meeting minutes of annual review from 3:12, 3:20, 3:24, 3:27, 4:1, 4:2, 4:14, 4:15, 4:16, 4:17, 4:20, 4:21, 4:22, 4:23, and 4:24. I'd like a motion and a second to approve these items.
So moved.
Brian, second.
Ray?
Ray, okay. Judy? You need to unmute to say yes or no, so we have a record. Sorry.
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Ayla?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Flo,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Linda.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 7 is personnel employment items. Okay, so this category includes the following: leave of absence, tenure, appointment recommendations, and approval of I need a motion and a second to approve these 2 items.
I'll move it.
Second.
I'll second.
Flo, okay. Judy,
Yes.
Brian.
Debbie, I have a
Yes.
Oops. Who's got a question? Joan,
Joan, of course.
go ahead.
So were you able to speak to the person I had the question on? Everything's all right? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Brian,
Yes.
Kayla.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Flo,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Linda.
Yes.
Okay. Category 8. So 8A, pupil personnel services vendor, Dr. Randall Thomas. I need a motion and a second to bring this item to the floor for discussion.
I'll move.
Second.
Flo, that was Ray.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. Judy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kayla.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Flo,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Linda.
Yes.
Okay. The next one is item 8B, a resolution regarding coaching stipends for spring 2020 interscholastic sports. I would like a motion and a second to bring this item to the floor for discussion, please.
I'll move it. Second.
Brian, Flo? Is there discussion on this one?
Yeah, I might as well bring it up. I was a little concerned about the percentage.
Okay.
I thought it was quite a bit considering there was no spring sports this year. Could it be lowered to 25%, or is that a no? What are the reasons?
I agree with Joan. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And you,
Okay, so that would require a second motion, I believe, correct? Because it'd have to be a new resolution?
Press 1 to connect your phone audio to your video.
What?
Use your phone to listen and speak to the meeting.
why did you agree on the 50%? Why couldn't it be a lower amount?
Is that to me,
Yes, to
Joan?
anybody to answer. What is the meaning 50%? Why couldn't it be 25%? Because we closed in the middle of March and the spring sports were only starting.
Well, I took a different viewpoint on that. Overall, our coaches prepared for the upcoming season long before the season starts. They conduct off-season workouts. They have coaches meetings. They work on their program's budget. And then this closing happened, and it was done in 2-week increments. And during the entire closing, they've continued to communicate with their student athletes. They've also were planning to potentially return to play if schools were reopened. None of us could know for sure what would happen until last week. And I know for a fact that our coaches were taking the same exact approach that we as a district were taking. They were planning for the myriad of variables that this pandemic has caused. If the governor decided that we return on such and such a date, then that's what the circumstances will be, and you need to be prepared. It was a continuously moving target. And it's important to note that the manner in which schools were closed, it continued. The season, like I said, wasn't officially over until last week. And the hypothetical component is that if we were to return to school on May 1st, the coaches would have been prepared to proceed with the season. And this preparation does not happen if they stopped with their duties. Our coaches are mainly teachers in our district, and I'm extremely proud of that. And I'm certain of, and I have firsthand knowledge of, their professionalism and commitment to our student athletes in our athletic program. They've demonstrated it this year and prior. And the coaches, like the athletes, did not ask for these circumstances. And as a former coach, and quite frankly, as a former athlete, I cannot imagine the range of emotions each has experienced this season, and particularly the seniors, which many of them, this would have been their last time. But getting back to the point, our coaches, they're essential in the process. And I'll give insight how the coaches did not hang up their whistle on March 13th. They had regular contact with their student athletes in groups and as individuals. They were sending out workouts, continuing the pitching workouts for our pitchers should we return. They continue to assist our students with connecting to college coaches. They're part of our intervention plan at the high school that incorporates having all potential stakeholders, coaches being one of the key focus groups, to connect with our students that are not accessing the work or meeting expectations. And in many instances, there's no more powerful influence than one's high school coach. They're integral in not only furthering our drive to have a premier athletic program, they're integral in our drive to have a premier school district. And that's every coach at every level. So that's why I offered this recommendation, and that's why I strongly support it. And I'll leave it at that. It's our coaches did not stop on March 13th. They continued working. They continued communicating up to and including working with our student athletes to get college coaches connected to them. So, it just I don't subscribe to the fact that coaching that they coached for 1 week of this season.
Are there any further questions? Flo?
I don't have a question. I just have a remark, if you may. If you need to take a vote on this, and if it passes, fine, and if it doesn't, then it's mute. Then you got to go to the next meeting and have a new resolution made up.
Correct.
I'm not going to sit here and go 50, 25. You vote on the 50%. You vote on what resolution we have in our packet. If it passes, fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then next week you come back, the next meeting, you come back with another one. You're not going to sit here and go down to 25. No, you won't do it. I mean, and I'm talking about my job.
You, Joan. Hold on.
And my job, and that's how I feel about it. So you call the vote. It'll be yes or no. See how it goes.
Joan?
Well, you know what? I'm being a little confused here. Because at one point I'm being told you can't discuss it here. Then you're told you have to discuss it someplace else. Now I'm being told that we're not supposed to discuss it here either. So, and it was put on the agenda without any being brought up to us beforehand.
No, I think it's appropriate to have the discussion here. I think what Flo is saying is that we take a vote on this. If I'm understanding what she's saying, we've been given a resolution for 50%. We allow everyone to say their piece, take the vote, see where it falls. If it doesn't pass, then we come back to the table and we have another discussion. Is that what you're saying, Flo?
Not tonight. You got to go back and make up a new resolution.
Right. We come back another time if it doesn't pass tonight. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Linda, you had something to say?
Well, yes, I would just like to say that I do know that a lot of the coaches have been working with their students, sending them exercises and, things that they can be doing on their own to maintain their athletic, bodies so that they are in shape to go back at any point in time. If all of a sudden it's open, we have a match tomorrow, these kids that have been working out, because their coaches have encouraged them, are in shape to do so. It's also been great for their minds to keep them busy. I've spoken to several different parents in regards to this, and I think it's fantastic that the coaches are doing what they're doing. I've actually seen some of the coaches sending out more stuff than you would even expect them to. So I agree that 50% would definitely be appropriate. That's all I wanted to say.
Does anyone else have anything they want to say? Tanya?
My only reservation is sort of along the line of what Jones is. You know, in any other circumstances, I think I would look at this maybe a little bit differently. My concern is right now is financially, we're asking our taxpayers to fund and be a part of paying a stipend for someone for a job that they didn't complete. And I just, in the current circumstances, and only because of the current circumstances, I feel like I think it's a tough thing to ask of our taxpayers. However, I also second the comment of, I also felt like this was thrown on top of us. I also want to publicly say I felt like I feel ill prepared to vote on this. So it's not even so much that I'm yes or no, as much as I feel ill prepared to vote on this. And I feel like that, you know, kind of what Joan said, we weren't allowed to talk about it. Fine, we come out here and then it's like, oh, well, everybody just vote and let's see how it goes. And, you know, my vote probably won't even matter in this tonight because you probably have your numbers. But I just, it's a very uncomfortable and strange situation I feel like I'm in right now. That's all.
I just want to say that I'm allowing everyone, we're all being allowed the opportunity. Okay, Mike, I'll get you in just a moment. I said we had to talk about it in public session. I didn't say you couldn't talk about it. So I need to make that abundantly clear that we are having the conversation. And to say that you have votes or you don't have votes, I mean, I got my agenda. I mean, obviously, as president, Tanya, you're well aware of this. Judy, you're aware of it. The president meets with the administrative team and discusses the agenda. Honestly, I thought 50% was a really good solution. And I had a little bit different take on it. That doesn't mean I can't have my mind changed or, you know, whatever. But, you know, I'm allowing everybody the opportunity to say their piece here. So, you know, I don't want you to say you're not getting a chance to talk about it. We are talking about it. And it was on the agenda on Friday and today's now Tuesday. So, you know, I think there was ample opportunity to call administration and ask your questions. Okay.
I did. I called. Okay. I did. I made the phone call ahead of time. I just, again, I guess, yes, I do know. I am aware that you were aware of what the agenda said. And I think most people can attest that when I reviewed an agenda and I felt like there was something on there that people should draw their attention to, I reached out and told people that it was on the agenda to draw their attention to it. That's just my way of doing things. That's not the way you need to do things. I'm just saying
No. I didn't expect it to be controversial, I guess, in my interpretation. That's the only thing. Mike, what did you want to say?
I just want to say that I'll take ownership of that. If that's the perception that this was put on there, that was 100% me. That was not, wasn't Debbie. It wasn't anyone else. It was me. I worked. I met with representation from the Teachers Association, and we had a very collaborative discussion. And like I said, I stand behind this number because the work that they've done and continue to do, all in the absence of anyone talking about money. And this wasn't about that. It's what they do. And again, I'll be redundant, but I don't subscribe to that they didn't complete the season. They exceeded expectations, and that's where I'll leave it. And I think I made myself clear on my position. So
Joan,
Okay, Joan, go ahead.
Don't take this as a criticism, but you have a very diverse group here, and I know that you're all athletics, but you have to realize that you have some people on this board that don't know the first thing about athletics, and I'm one of them. There were two groups when I went to school. The animals and the pansies, and I was not on the animals. So I have no idea what the coaches do. So you're going to realize that you might have to explain things a little bit more, because not all of us are aware of what goes on behind the scenes. So I was one of those that thought that when the school ended, so did everything else. Like, I didn't realize that they were still having special ed meetings until I saw the agenda here tonight.
Okay, that's valid. Okay.
And,
All right.
and go ahead. I'm sorry, Judy.
And when I see stuff on
I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that they kept going. Now I do. So if there was a little bit more explanation, if you had explained to us first why you had done that and then put it on the agenda, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now.
Okay, fair. Okay, Judy?
You
Okay,
know,
Travis, I'll get you in a minute.
I think that as if it was another program, let's say Odyssey of the Mind, whatever, we all know that, you know, there's a lot of prep that goes into, you know, those programs, same as sports. I have to agree that if I set my time aside and volunteer to do that, to coach, that meant I wasn't doing anything else during that time, and I reserved that time to be with the children and to coach. There's got to be prep that's got to be done beforehand. There's got to be uniforms that have to be, in some instances, that have to be ordered. And from what Mike's saying, you know, there was a lot of that, and therefore I think that a 50% is fair. That's my opinion.
Anyone else?
So I'll just mention,
Okay, Nick,
sorry,
come on.
sorry to jump in, but I know Ray asked a question on the comment, so I'll just read that, and I was just going to respond. He asked if this revenue was already approved, and the answer to that is yes. Ultimately, the revenue are, you know, and expenses are, you know, already exist in the budget because this was a planned on, you know, item for this year. We, you know, as a board, ultimately this was approved. The stipends were approved over 3 different meetings for the different individuals. So, you know, there's, in that regard, it's no impact to the current budget. It's actually, you know, going to reduce some of the expense in the current budget because you're not paying the full stipend.
Nick, you had something to say?
Sure. I mean, my contacts with Ray and really, you know, our coaches are devastated. Our student athletes are devastated. But they're, you know, planning a, you know, end of the year celebration to recognize the kids and seniors that normally takes place at Erie Trackside. And along with, you know, you can't put, you know, a typical season, a scope what coaches do. You know, we know that they practice, you know, before, after, the time and dedication is unparalleled. And, you know, the connections of kids is unbelievable. Even creating practice plans that are socially distanced, utilizing Huddle to give specific workouts. So, you know, those are my interactions with Ray and trying to just give you a little bit more feedback in what they're currently working on. And then if you check our social media, the first thing we got a call from, you know, coaches, can we put this on social media, recognize our seniors, or the softball TikTok video, which was awesome. So our coaches really thinking outside the box and really trying to keep these connections with the kids.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to say? Kayla?
So I guess, do you want to go for it?
No, go ahead, Kayla.
I guess I would agree with what a lot of people have said, that I just feel like I didn't feel prepared for this. I had questions that I understand, like things are like executive orders are referenced, and I try to understand it myself, and I'm looking at them and I'm being told the answers are there, which I'm not saying they're not, but I don't understand it. And if I can't understand something, then it's very hard to vote on something when you don't understand it. You don't have the time to get the clarification, or, I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like it was not prepared.
That's fair. And, you know, I'll apologize for not bringing it to anyone. I didn't think it was going to be a controversial issue myself. And I have to look at that there's other opinions and think about that going forward. So I'm very sorry that I just didn't think it. I thought, to me, it was a savings for the district. I thought it was fair to the coaches.
I mean, I can see how it's a savings, but at the same time, it's still like, I don't know, I feel like I get that they did do work, but not exactly what they would. I'm not trying to.
And they're not getting paid
discredit
what they
anything
would have
that they
gotten
have
paid.
done.
So, Mike, Mr. Riddell.
Last thing I'll say is that as a result of this closing, job descriptions across our school district changed, and people had to adapt to doing things that they normally don't do on any given day. So just because the coaches weren't reporting to the baseball diamond doesn't mean they still weren't coaching and were hugely important in these students' lives. They rose to the occasion without being asked. And again, respectfully, this was 100% on me. If you're saying there was a lack of communication, it was on me, because this was worked out leading up to this, because of the fact that we recognize that paying 100% was not prudent, and we worked with the teachers union and mutually agreed that this was more than fair, and or that this was fair. And I think they more than exceeded expectations. So that's where it was. So the communication gap, that's on me, not on anyone else.
Okay, so I'm going to call roll call vote. Judy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kayla,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Flo,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Linda.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for your candor on that topic. Okay, the next item is board member comments. Judy?
I'd like to appreciate the teachers. Happy Teacher Appreciation. And I know that we've been working hard on trying to, there's a committee for the graduation and trying to resolve some of that. So hang in there, seniors. And I didn't hear anything, but I'm sure we're going to do something for the kindergarten graduation. So I look forward to all that. I think that parents should know that we're still here for you.
Brian?
No comment.
Kayla?
Nothing.
Joan?
Oh, well, you probably don't want to hear from me, but here we go.
Sure we do.
I think this new executive order with the voting is a lot of baloney. Usually for a school board vote, we're lucky if we get anywhere from 700 to 900 people.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, he throws down a mandate without any funding. Either way, the taxpayers have to pay for it, whether it comes from the state or it comes from the local government. However, this latest thing, I've got 10,000 people alone just in Port Jervis. Then you've got Huguenot, you've got parts of Fallsburg, you've got Mamakating, you've got parts of Wurtsboro, you've got all these other little things where you have to send out these absentee ballots plus the postage to send them back. It's going to be a small fortune to send these things out. Plus, when it was just for the handicapped, you never had to put the postage on the return envelope. The people had to do it themselves. So I think if you can go to the store, you can go to the polls to vote. And I think you should have some kind of ID. I don't think any of this vote by mail thing should be allowed. And that's my opinion. Thank you very much.
Totally agree.
Debbie, you're muted.
I have a crazy cat in the room, so Tanya?
Nothing.
Okay. Flo?
I would just like to say, everyone out there, especially our students and especially our graduates, we think of you every day, and we're standing right by side of you, because wish we could do more than what is being done by our district, our administrators. They're taking care of you, and I know everything will work out at the end. Anyone, please check on your neighbors. If you know anybody who needs any help, I'm a phone call away. Get your food, get your supplies. We'll work with Orange and Rockland. Please check on your neighbors, especially your elderly. I'm a phone call away. Mr. Lenz, is there any way possible you could put on the website a point presentation of the election process that we're going to come into? You know, like you were talking about the dates and stuff, and I think that would be good. I would look at it, you know, to find out when I need, you know, paperwork in and when the election is.
Okay, Mike.
You know, and I think that would be a good idea if we could just put it out there for them to remember, you know, because people are going on the website all the time. So if they keep, you know, seeing this, you know, and Joan, I agree with you 100% because 2 weeks later is primary and people are going to the polls for that. So I don't know why they can't come to the polls 2 weeks earlier, even if we did a paper ballot election for that. But I agree with you 100% that they should be able to come out. Wear a mask, wear gloves, give them that when you walk in the door, and take care of it that way.
Mike, you had something to say? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, or Mr. Lenz, I just wanted to say that we are planning on meeting about that tomorrow morning, talking about all aspects of how we're going to clearly communicate this on our website and social media. You know, we spent quite a few hours today on conference calls about some of the nuances about the budget, the voting process, and making sure we had the best plan. Because as multiple people have said, it's an unfunded mandate, and it's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars for this election that wouldn't otherwise have been spent. So wanted to make sure we did it in the best way. God bless you, Judy.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, next would be Ray.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank every one of our wonderful teachers in the district. I know having 2 students here in the house, I have heard from my son elementary level teacher a couple of times a week, and I know my high schooler, he's heard from just about every one of his teachers, not just about every one of his teachers. And also heard from his guidance counselor. So everyone, I just want to applaud you. You guys have been doing outstanding work during this process. And you know, all in Friday, the past Friday was our building administrators, and I just want to thank every one of them. Also, everyone's doing a fantastic job during these unprecedented times. And you know, everyone's heard this saying: "It takes a village to raise." And what we have going on in Port Jervis, I'm so proud of everyone. Thank you all so much. Everyone continue to stay safe.
Okay, Ray, thanks. Linda?
Yes, I would also like to say thank you to our teachers and principals and to give them the recognition that they are due. I want to say also thank you to our food service that they are going way above and beyond. And it's just awesome. And you know, I'm just so proud of our people that they are doing this, and also our administrators for being out there and working so hard to get everything done that needs to be done. And I want to thank you, Joan, for bringing that up, because I totally agree with you. We're being handed mandate after mandate, and some of them are lacking a tremendous amount of common sense. About as much common sense as sending COVID patients to the nursing home. And everybody stay safe, keep healthy, and hopefully we'll all be back to normal soon. God bless you all.
Thanks, Linda. And I just would reiterate my thanks to our entire learning community, recognizing the Teachers Appreciation Week, the building administrators last week, our secretaries, our administrative assistants last week or the week before. These are unprecedented times, and you know, a lot of our teachers have never ventured into this world, and a lot of our kids, while they may be on the computer a lot, they've never done it in the educational realm. It's not an exact science. They're doing the best they can. And I just wish to say that we support everything you're doing, and we thank you for everything you're doing for our kids. You know, while they're educating some of their own at home. So, you know, it's tough. And, you know, I feel for all of our kids that are going to miss their traditional recognition. Nobody wanted this to happen. But you know what? At the end of the day, we got to keep safe as we can. And nobody really knows what that answer is. We're doing the best we can. So thank you again. And, you know, hopefully our days of meeting online like this will change soon, but who knows? And with that being said, the dates to remember that I have is Wednesday, May 20th via Google Meet will be a board meeting. And then I'm sure we'll get out the dates for the workshops in between then. So at this time, I'd like a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
So
I'll
moved.
move it.
Second.
Tanya and Ray, and it's 7:56. Okay, Judy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Joan,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Flo,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Linda.
Yes.
All right, everybody, have a great night. Stay safe.
Same. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.